Thank you for tuning in to this winter yin yoga class where we're going to focus in on the bladder line of the body. So a lot of flexion and extension of the spine, and also the kidney line, which in addition to kind of running up the front body, works into the inner leg line a little bit. So we're going to do some back bending, we'll do some forward folding, we'll work into the hips a little bit. So for props tonight, if you have a bolster, have a bolster. If you don't, you could take like a bed pillow and roll up a blanket around it, or if you have a really thick, big comforter, you could kind of make a little burrito so you have a long tubular shape that you could use. If you don't have that, a yoga block is fine too, or a folded blanket or the gorgeous ball. And then if you have other blocks, definitely have them handy. And if not, grab a couple throw pillows. They'll be useful for shims here and there when we work into our hips. Sometimes the ground will just be too far away, and we'll use a small little prop just to kind of adjust and create that comfortable environment. I don't use a lot of blankets when I'm demoing because I want you to see me, but if I was practicing yoga class, I would have a lot of blankets around, a lot of pillows around, so that you can take these poses that might be stressing the body out in some ways, but there's a lot of sensation, and you can make it a little softer, a little sweeter, so that you can hold the pose in stillness for longer, which in the end is the best for the connective tissue in our body. All right, so we will get started in this heart opening butterfly pose. So you're going to have towards the back of your mat, or maybe mid mat, a bolster, and you'll be back bending over the bolster. And then I have a block on the second highest height behind that, and that'll be for my head. And then I have a couple blocks next to me, and those will catch my legs as I come into butterfly pose. We'll get over and we'll start getting in. Okay. So I'm sitting in front of the bolster. I'll recline over, and then I'll reach behind me and I'll grab that block and adjust it to any height so that I feel really comfortable. I actually just put it on the tallest height, and that feels great, but there's no right or wrong. And instead of getting into this dogmatic approach to your yoga where I have to do exactly what the teacher said, you can just start to feel out different props, feel out different heights. And it doesn't matter if you know why or justify why one might be better. If it just feels right in your body, trust that that's great, right? Trust your ability to modify and adjust as you need to, even throughout the pose, right? We want to be still. We want to get into a pattern where we can let go of tension in our body. So without fidgeting too much, also be open to your body requesting to go deeper, to come out a little, make those adjustments, and come right back to your stillness. So once you have your back bending shape set up, we're going to bring the legs into butterfly. So I bring the inside of my feet together as my knees drop open. That gravity might feel really nice. If that feels like it's a bit too much of a pull, go ahead and tuck a prop outside the edge of the legs. And depending on your setup, the arms might fall nicely to the ground, or you might choose to rest them on the body as well. You want the pose to feel nice. You want to have a level of intensity where you can feel some work into the tissues of the body, but not so much that you're tensing up. It can be helpful for many to close the eyes so that we minimize the distractions, and we can start to bring our drishti, our focus, inside. Doing a body scan. See if there's any bits of tension that you can let go of, and let the props supporting you completely hold the weight of your body, and allowing this pose, this moment, to really just hold all the weight of the world. All the things to solve and do will have their time, and we won't be able to do those solvings effectively if we haven't really rested. In these back bending poses, these heart opening poses, open our heart physically. And also, it's a reminder to stay open with our heart energetically. As life gets stressful, as it gets physically cold, as we start to go into a little bit of fight or flight, we have that tendency to contract, to curl in and protect ourselves. And this is a great moment to remind ourselves that within all the chaos, within the stress and things prompting us to contract, that we can choose to stay open. We can choose to lead with our heart, filter our choices and our words through our heart. We'll slowly bring the knees back together and extend the legs long down your mat if you haven't done so already. And we'll just have an offering to open up a little bit deeper, which you do not have to take if you're feeling this is already pretty intense for your shoulders or for your spine. If you'd like to try it, reach your arms overhead and then go ahead and grab opposite hand to either elbow or forearm or wrist, whatever feels okay. And then slowly let your arms go up and overhead in this ragdoll bind, just as far as it feels good. If the shoulder starts to get cranky or it feels like there's an impingement going on, then you've gone too far. And then wherever spot you get to, take a nice breath into your heart, fill up your rib cage, your shoulders, the back of the heart. And then let the breath fall out of you. And then as you glance at your arms, notice which arm is on top and switch your grip so that the opposite arm is on top. And we'll do the same thing. Slowly let the arms then go back overhead, finding your range, respecting the boundaries that your body's asking for, and take a few more nice breaths. Okay. To come out of the pose, you could try to sit straight up or maybe roll to one side. Press yourself up. And then we'll go ahead and clear the mat of props, but keeping the bolster and the blocks set aside so that when we come back to our mat, everything is still within reach. Lots of props in this class, so it's taking just an extra moment here. Okay, here we go, back down. And we'll start in half corpse now. The back is against the mat, the feet are planted to the mat about hip width distance. And then we'll go ahead and just for a few breaths, rest the hands on the lower rib cage. And let's just practice some easy full breaths where we draw the breath in through the nose, down into the lowest part of the belly. And then again, just let the soft breath release on your exhale. And we'll take 3 to 5 rounds of breath like that. Okay. So we're going to work with a mudra and a mantra tonight. It's called our Garudasana or our eagle mantra. So what we'll do is you can hold your hands so that you're staring at your palms basically, right? And your forearms more or less are making the shape of an 11, right? They're parallel. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna cross our forearms. And now once we cross our forearms, our thumbs are fairly close together, go ahead and hook your thumbs, right? This is your eagle mudra, your Garudasana, and you can go ahead and let your hands in that eagle mudra just rest on your chest for a few moments. Garudasana reminds us to, like the eagle, see through obstacles, to not lose sight of our intentions, right? Our intentions and our goals that we're setting that we maybe set at the beginning of this month. And as life happens and things come in the way, to really continue to remind ourselves and hold them close to our heart. And we'll do a little breath work with our eagle. As we inhale, you can let your eagle soar and you reach your eagle mudra, right? Thumbs interlaced up to the ceiling. And then as you exhale, your hands fall back down to the chest. And we'll do that 3 to 5 times. Inhaling, you can soar your eagle. Exhale, back to the heart. Right? Rise above, back to heart. Rise above, and back to heart. Okay, you can release your mudra, release your hands down, and we're gonna go ahead and find a prop. You could use your bolster for this, or if the bolster feels like too much, you can use a block. And we're gonna come into supported bridge pose. So the prop will come underneath our sacrum. We'll lift our hips off the ground, and we'll bring whatever prop we're using to slide on underneath. The bolster can be pretty intense of a lift. So if you want something a little bit less, try a folded up blanket or a block. The hands could stay in that Garudasana eagle mudra if you'd like to work that, or maybe they just fall to the ground somewhere. And over the next 2 minutes or so, you'll play with finding the boundary of the depth of the pose that your body likes by slowly starting to walk the feet out in front of you. If you feel like it created too much sensation, the feet could walk back slightly. And it might be a stepwise fashion for a few breaths. You feel a lot of intensity. And then maybe that subsides and you go out a little bit further. Or it becomes too much and you back off. And the legs could straighten, but they may not. Another back bending pose, right? So we're getting that healthy compression in the spine and also more front body opening. Now working into the lower rib area, which is our solar plexus, our center of confidence, right? The front of our hips, which opens us up to creativity. All of these front body things that again tend to kind of hide and retreat when life happens. Option to stay as you are, Or we'll take this into a little bit of a side stretch by stepping both of our feet over to the right. And you could cross one ankle over the other if you do that, if that feels more comfortable. If the legs are crossed, you can uncross, take them back to center, and then over to the other side. It's very subtle. They might not make it too far over to the side, but just enough where you might notice a slightly deeper sensation on the outer leg and outer hip of one side. And uncross and back to center we'll go. We'll start to bring some bend back into the legs. And once the feet are to the ground, lift the hips and slide your prop out. And we'll let the back and the hips rest to the ground one more time. And come back to those nice full breaths. Just notice how maybe breathing down into your lower belly feels a little bit different now that we've been through a few poses. Our next pose will be an eagle twist or twisted root. And so you'll want to have a prop, a block, or a bolster on your left side. We'll work the right leg first, bringing the right leg up and over the left. So this is a little bit of an internal rotation, and I can feel a little sandwiching or compression behind my right thigh as it presses into the left. And then we'll move the hips a little bit over to the right before we let our knees fall into the twist. So I'll lift my hips, set my hips down over to the right, and then my knees will fall left. And I can take whatever prop I'm using and pull it close to me for more support. My legs can fall right into it. Or as sensation subsides and I want to go deeper, I might move the prop further away. Being a twisting pose, you'll probably initially have a lot of focus and awareness in the lower back and the hips. And as your body settles into stillness, you might find things open up along the spine. And you might notice that you can adjust your chest more openly towards the ceiling. Or maybe the gaze goes over to the right, twisting up into the cervical spine. But all this will happen over the course of time. Just keep to your breath and listening for those openings and respecting the boundaries if it's not open yet, so that we don't push too far. We don't want to create a stressful situation for the body, and then we can't relax and we're doing something to add more stress opposed to letting go of it. We'll let the knees come back to center and uncross. Hips come back to center. And then whatever prop that you used on your left side, you might roll it over to the right side of the mat. The left leg will wrap the right. I'll move the hips a little bit over to the left, and my knees will fall into my prop. Right? In life, creating this sense of softness through the moments of challenge is where we take the yoga off the mat, and we even practice that within the pose. Watch your sensation. Be mindful of too much. You need to be softer. Take a step back. Be focused enough on what's going on inside where you become aware when things open up and you can take a step forward. And back to center we go. The hips with the feet uncrossing. And before we change our orientation, coming through our half corpse one more time. Right, coming back to breath. And now we're going to come up to a seat, and you could roll to one side, or maybe you give a little hug and a rock, massaging the spine. You can rock and roll by curling your chin, rounding your spine, and rocking along the length. But if that seems too much, by all means, come up however it feels best for you. Okay, we're actually going to come to hands and knees and prepare for child's pose with a twist. Before we do so, just kind of honoring of being upright, why don't you come to a really brief seating pose. So I'm taking hero's pose, sitting back on my heels, or maybe putting a block in between your feet. So you can be upright and just notice the effect of the back bends, the twisting, being on our mat so far. If it feels okay, close the eyes and feel your sitting bones rooting down and your spine lengthening up with the crown of your head reaching towards the sky. And take those breaths now upright, all the way down to the lowest part of the belly. And one more time, we'll take our Eagle Mudra. You can open your eyes, hold your hands so that you're looking at your palms, cross your forearms, and let your thumbs hook. Rest your eagle to your heart. Maybe briefly just remembering that intention we set at the beginning of the month, and then we'll let our eagle fly as we inhale, and then back to our heart as we exhale. We fly, return to heart. And I was just thinking of this quote I remembered. Courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes courage is the quiet voice that says, I'll try again tomorrow, right? We keep coming back to that through all that life throws at us. Okay, let's get into our twist. So for this kneeling shape, it can be nice to be on something soft. I have a little extra mat. You might have a cushion, and a blanket works great too. And fold the blanket so that it's wide enough where it can really cover the width of your mat. And it can be even nice if it's opened up enough where the ankles can be resting and also the knees can be resting. And for child's pose with a twist, I find it helpful to take the knees wide, but you don't necessarily have to. I'll bring the arms out in front, and then I'll thread the right arm underneath the left. And I'm low enough where my right shoulder can come down to the ground, but if not, you could put your bolster or a blanket or a block there. And the left arm can really just rest wherever. And the head might rest down to the ground, being the temple or the middle of the forehead, right? You can see what feels good. You can also use a prop there if that feels supportive. We've been doing a lot of poses that have been compressing the spine. And in this child's pose, we're creating a little openness now for the spine. It's a little gentle rounding in the spine. And the twisting is creating an opening in the upper part of the back. And now we'll twist to the other side. Press the left hand down, start to lift the torso so you have room to untwist the right arm, and the right arm will extend out. And then we'll twist to the other side, the left arm threads under. The back, and especially the upper back, can become very tight for a lot of us, and energetically it's thought that the back becomes tight from control, right? It's trying to control and hold the body to something, and energetically it's thought that maybe the back becomes tight when we're trying to control life. And if you think about it, right, being more water-like and going with the flow means that we're open to life taking us off course. We're open to the fact that coming off track is part of the process. And we just commit to coming back to our breath, coming back to our intention. We'll unthread from the second side. And we can lift the hips from the heels. That will give a little relief. Also, maybe bringing the knees a little bit closer together. Feel free to be still or take a few cat-cows where we can let the belly and the chest drop, bringing the body into a little bit of a back bend as we inhale. And then as we exhale, pushing and rounding the spine. Okay, we're going to come into Pigeon Pose, and it can be really helpful to have your bolster and to have some blocks and a folded blanket if you have one within reach. So I have all those things handy. I can grab those things if I need them. The first thing that I'm going to do is step my right knee forward, right? So as I bring my right knee more towards the right side of my mat, my right hand, my foot will probably come out at some angle. For many of us, the foot will be aligned, probably right above the pelvis, right above the hips. For some people, the foot might come forward a little bit more if that feels good, right? And so we have the weight of our torso helping to open up our hips here. And so it's really helpful to have props, right? So I can tuck my bolster under that right side hip. I could use a folded blanket if the bolster seemed too much. I could also just take a block and place a block underneath my right side hip. Right? However much up you need, build your props up that far, right? So I have something behind me and my left leg is extended just back behind me, right? If this is too much on your knee, you might have to sit up a little bit higher. You could always take figure 4 on your back. Now you might stay propped up on your hands. You could lower down to the ground or maybe to another prop. If you have a blanket or a block or a bolster, you could bring that in front of you so that you can then lean your forearms or maybe rest your chest down. Right, and we expect that there's going to be poses where there's a lot of sensation, right? We expect that challenge, and we just try our best to return to our breath, to approach the pose with a little softness, finding ways to adapt without giving up. And we'll start to make our way out of the first side, pressing the torso, or pressing the hands down to lift the torso, and then stepping our right leg back to tabletop. And we'll get ready for pigeon on the other side. Now this pose, more so than others, can be really different left to right. So just be open to the fact that your body might need something different. My left knee will come forward and over towards the left side of the mat, maybe close to my left palm. Okay. The foot might align towards the pelvis, or maybe the shin comes forward, whatever's comfortable. I'm a lot stronger on this side, so my hip is a lot more lifted. I have a little bit less flexibility, so I might need something a little bit higher on this side, or just understand that I might have more sensation to deal with. And then depending on the leg situation, you might stay up, you could come down to your forearms, or you might use a prop. Right? Breathe and soften, breathe and soften. Start to move out of the second side, lift the torso, bring the legs back to your table. Woo. Okay, our last poses are going to be seated poses. And most of us will need to sit on something other than our mat, something that lifts our seat a little bit higher. I'm going to use a folded blanket for that. And I will have my other props, my blocks and my bolster within reach just in case. We're going to come into a half butterfly forward fold. So once I get my seat, I know that it's right because I don't feel myself leaning back. If you feel like you're leaning back or gravity's pulling you back, sit up on something a little bit higher. And then we'll extend the legs out. We're going to start by bringing the right leg into a little bit of a diagonal off to the side. And I'll bend the left knee, and then the left foot will come towards, maybe not touching the right leg, it can, but just depending on how much flexion your left knee likes, your foot might be further away from you. Right? And if this knee is lifted like mine, you can definitely prop with a block. And if the right knee isn't liking being straight, you could also shim something else in there. Okay? And now we're going to turn our torso towards our extended right leg. We're going to flex at the hips, and we're also going to round the spine. So if you are in a situation like this where there's a lot of space between your torso and the leg, that could put some stress on the lower back. It doesn't necessarily, but if you feel too much tension, grab something soft, maybe the bolster or a gorgeous ball or a block, and you can lean into it, right? And that will adapt gravity so that you're getting some of the benefit of the fold without all the pull on the pose. And then we can benefit that whole bladder line that runs up the back of the head to the forehead if we also let the head fall in the pose. So if you can, just let your head drop so that your forehead is moving towards your knee. Right? And I'm not pulling. My left arm is reaching over to my right leg, but this is just a gravity thing. I'm just holding my leg. I'm not pulling myself down in any way. To come out of this one, press the hands down so you support the torso and the spine and coming out of our flexion. I'll go ahead and switch sides. Both of my legs can extend out to start. I'll bring my left leg in that little diagonal off to the side. I'll bring my right leg into butterfly, bending the knee, seeing where the foot comes, supporting the right knee if you need to, supporting the back of the left knee if you need to. And then as I flex into the hips and I round into the spine, using props in between your leg and your torso to create softness. And bowing the head if that feels okay. Press down to come out of the second side. And then we'll extend both legs out. Now we're going to take caterpillar pose, caterpillar fold with an eagle bind, right? If that feels okay in the shoulders. So in regular caterpillar pose, it can be nice just to have the legs long. So by all means, take that modification. In this modification of the pose with eagle arms, I like to have something back behind the knees. So you could put some blocks behind the knees, a folded blanket or a bolster, and then this gives us something to round into, almost like a little shelf where our arms can rest in this pose. So in eagle arm pose, when we use eagle arms, it's an open up for the back shoulders. And one of the easiest ways to do this is just go ahead and give yourself a hug, opposite hand, opposite shoulder. And then from there, you can fall into it. If your elbows and your arms don't rest on your legs, you can put some more props there, stack it up. If you want to try the full eagle bind, the right one arm comes under the other, and then you also wrap into the forearms and the hands. Right? So it doesn't matter which arm you do first, but in this case, my right arm's coming under, and then my right hand wraps around to my left palm. If that doesn't feel okay on your shoulders, you can just do the hug method. And then just like before, we'll round the head, let the head nuzzle into the arms, and we breathe into the shoulders, into the back. And release the bind and press down into the legs so that you can bring the torso up. Notice whatever arm that you had on top, and go ahead and give yourself a hug the other way, or come into the eagle bind with the opposite arm on top. Then one more time, we'll fold. unravel and we'll bring the torso up. And for a little brief Shavasana, maybe keep whatever you have behind your legs. That can be a really nice way to lay down in a restful shape and take a lot of the stress off your spine. So I moved whatever prop I was sitting on out from underneath my seat so that I can lay back down in this starfish, this modified Shavasana, and let the arms be outstretched with the palms upward facing. And for a few breaths, again, do one more body scan and really allow the weight of your body to be held by your mat and your props. In these last few moments of class, commit to this rest in your body and commit to allowing your mind some restful time without thinking. Take a nice full breath in. Nice full breath out. You can bend your knees. Maybe they come to whatever prop you were using behind them. Slide that out of the way. And then however you see fit, we'll come up to a seat. And before we close class, one more time, feel the sitting bones rooting down, your spine lengthening up from there. Notice the space you created in your body and your mind. Hands come to heart center, Anjali Mudra, with gratitude for all that we have. Together we breathe in. Together we breathe out. Namaste. Thank you very much for spending this time with me, for taking class, for coming back, right? Always coming back to those intentions, that breath, that moment. Take care.